so I'll let you know when it's recording. Looks like we're good to go.
Looks like we're on. All right. So first off, good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. We all made it to 2021, so hopefully this year will be better than last year. So it's great to see everyone, even though it's virtual. My name is Stacey Ray Storman. Well, I know most of you. For anyone I don't know, I'm the Director of Player Development for the Indiana PGA section. It's great to be here with you today. During the month of January, Kim and I are hosting several webinars that we hope will provide you with useful information that you can use during the off-season and plan for your 2021 year. Today is our first webinar, and our topic is going to be PGA Junior League. For today's webinar, we encourage you to participate. However, we ask you keep your computer or phone on mute unless you would like to speak or ask a question. You can always unmute to speak, but it drastically lowers the amount of background noise if everybody remains mute for the call. You can find the mute button in the lower middle portion of your screen, and you may also ask questions by posting them through the chat area, which is located in the top right-hand corner of the screen. We will see all of the questions posted in the chat area and then can address any questions as they arise. So I'm going to let Kim kickstart us off with today's topic.
Thanks, Stacey. So for those of you who may not know me, my name is Kim Schaefer. I am both a PGA and an LPGA member, and I am the Regional League Manager that works with the Indiana, Michigan, Northern, and Southern Ohio PGA sections. So in Indiana, I work really closely with Stacey to assist you with all of your player development needs. It is our goal to provide you with all of the tools and resources that you need to make the decisions about what player development opportunities will work best for you at your facilities. So we're excited about these upcoming webinars. We feel like it's a great way for professionals to connect with one another and really learn from each other. So today's our first one, and our topic today is PGA Junior League. We have tons of information to share with you today. We also have 3 guest speakers, all Indiana PGA professionals that have had really great success with PGA Junior League. So we're looking forward to a great discussion with them today as well. So the first thing I want to do is kind of give you a brief description of, hey, what is PGA Junior League? So first of all, it's fun. In our end of the year surveys, we have received just astronomically high scores from both the PGA and LPGA professionals running the programs, and then also from the families and the players that are participating in the programs. So last year, in 2020, our scores for what we call our Net Promoter Score, I kind of call it the happiness factor with the program. All of our professionals that registered for the program last year, the Net Promoter Score was an 86. And for our players and their families, the Net Promoter Score was an 81. To have anything in the 80s is just absolutely incredible. The average youth sport scores between a 30 and a 60. So really, really high numbers. Everybody's enjoying their PGA Junior League experience. PGA Junior League, it's inclusive. With the 2-person scramble match play format, it's a very relaxed, kind of welcoming format that allows players of all abilities to participate and really enjoy the experience. And PGA Junior League is social. Our team, we actually do not like the term social distancing. We prefer the term physical distancing. We believe that you can still be very social but maintain that physical distance with others. And that's exactly the experience that PGA Junior League is offering a lot of our young players right now, especially at a time when they need that social interaction more than ever. PGA Junior League is healthy. Even during a pandemic, our coaches can provide players with that kind of healthy and responsible atmosphere where they can physically distance, yet still be active and outdoors and still experience that exercise. And then it's also all about the jerseys and the team swag that the kids get. The kids love to get those jerseys, and that really makes them feel a sense of belonging, and it builds up their excitement for the season, and it makes them feel, hey, I'm a part of something. I'm a part of that team. So the final thing I have to share with you is there's some good news for 2021. We did a recent survey of all our participants from the last 2 years. And we found out that 91% of families say that they are comfortable or very comfortable with returning to PGA Junior League games and practices. So the top 3 reasons they said that they are ready to participate is, number 1, they think it is fun. Number 2 is skill development. They see their junior golfers improving. And then number 3 is they really do see it as a very healthy option right now in the world that we're living in. Golf is seeing a huge boom right now. So we're seeing lots and lots of new rounds and new interest in the game. And the amount of family golf that is being played is also going up dramatically. So now more than ever is probably a great time to start a PGA Junior League program. It's a really good way to connect with your families and kind of start creating those lasting relationships.
So today we have 3 Indiana PGA professionals with us as our guest speakers. All 3 have been extremely successful with Junior League, and we are going to ask them some questions to give them the opportunity to hear their ideas and best practices. Jan, let's start with you. Jan Kleinman is at Ironwood Golf Club, and she has seen her program grow tremendously over the last few years. Jan, can you share with us your PGA Junior League story? How did you get involved with the program, and describe the growth you have experienced?
Sure, Stacy. I think the first year we did it at Ironwood was maybe 2013, and I was just looking for some programs to expand the junior program there. And we had one team. I knew pretty quickly on that this was going to be a very popular families, and the kids were going to love it. And that season went great. I did actually have to turn down a couple kids, which you hate to do because the team was full. So I think it was the next year we went to 2. And a year or 2 after that, we even tried 3 teams, which was almost impossible, traveling to different leagues. So that was hard to do. So then last season, we went with the in-house. And we made that decision prior to the pandemic, but as it turned out, I think that was an even a good year to start with the in-house. And we had 4 teams, and anticipate having 4 to 6 teams this year as the interest seems to keep growing.
Jan, thanks for sharing that story with us. Yours is a very common story, actually. It's something I hear a lot, is I have a professional that kind of starts the program and they start off with 1 team, and then it's just the popularity of it. They start to grow to 2 to 3. And you'd mentioned at 3 that it was almost impossible to manage kind of, where you're going to travel and where all your travel games are going and things like that. And I hear that a lot. And so I have a lot of our captains that do in-house leagues have told me that they find it much, much easier to actually do in-house leagues with 4, 5, or 6 teams than they found it doing a travel league with 2 or 3 teams. So I hear you on that, and that's something that's pretty common. One thing I want to share with everybody is, where we're talking kind of about in-house leagues, what exactly is an in-house league? So the term in-house league basically means that a facility has enough players to host their own league with multiple teams just at their facility. So that way they're not traveling and going in a travel league with any other area golf courses. The minimum number of players required to host your own in-house league has actually been decreased for the 2021 season. Previously, it was 32 players, and from now on, it will be 24 players. So if you have a minimum of 24 players, you are eligible to host an in-house league at your facility and play in all of the postseason events. One of the things that most of our golf professionals tell me that they really enjoy about running their own in-house leagues is they love it because it gives them complete and total control over the experience. They could create their game schedules and practice schedules today if they wanted to and have them published and out there for their families to know for the rest of the season. They don't have to wait until March to when we create the leagues to kind of find out who's going to be in their travel league and then try to coordinate those schedules with the other facilities. They actually can go ahead and create all of their schedules right now. So there's some definite upside to doing that. The other thing that we found last year was there was a large uptick in the number of in-house leagues, and part of that was families really did not feel comfortable traveling last year, and they had a certain level of trust with their host professional, and so they trusted their host professional to provide that kind of healthy environment, but they really weren't comfortable with traveling to other facilities. So we did see a big increase last year in the number of in-house leagues, and we expect that we will probably see even more this year. Jan, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me why you in particular really enjoyed hosting your own in-house league this last year, and what benefits do you think your family saw from having that in-house league?
Again, I'll echo exactly what you said about the scheduling. Like, I'll have the practice schedule and the game schedule done and posted this winter. I do tell the parents certainly things can come up like last year where we have to make adjustments, but they do appreciate at least seeing the groundwork, the base of it there. And then interesting, you mentioned like the parents not being comfortable last year traveling. I had a lot of parents tell me last year that aside from the pandemic, they enjoyed or appreciated not having to go to games at another facility. So where I look at that as maybe the one negative is the kids don't get to play a different golf course. The parents were looking at that as, hey, this is great. I know we're going to Ironwood. Everything's at Ironwood. I don't have to worry about how to get somebody to a different facility for a game. So I do know that many of my parents, even in a non-pandemic year, like the idea of everything being in one place. And again, they also appreciate having that schedule so that they can schedule their other activities or activities with other kids around that. And then I think the other thing that even surprised me a little bit, we host all our games on the same day. And even if we go up in numbers this year, we will have them all on the same day. And if you can do that at your facility, I recommend it. Game day is amazing. I mean, you've got so many kids running around in the jerseys. I had more golfers, we're a public facility. I had more golfers. Hey, what are they doing? What are all those kids? I saw those kids last Sunday. What is that? So it's great advertisement. And it's just really exciting. And one of the things you were talking about was where you get your volunteers. Well, I actually had some golfers say, hey, if you ever need any help, you know what you do, approach me, because they were unaware of it, and seeing everybody on that day in those jerseys, they knew something big was going on. So those are the things that we really liked about doing it in-house.
That's awesome. And I know from a lot of my in-house captains, not necessarily during this pandemic year, but prior to that, one thing you'd mentioned is how great it is having all the games on the same day, basically at the same time. And I have a lot of in-house league captains that may have 4, 6, or even 8 teams just at their one facility. And they will do that. They'll have all the games come at the same time. They'll either do a shotgun. Prior pandemic, they did shotguns. Last year, they just did tee times. But one thing that they really got out of that also was a huge boost to their food and beverage at their facility, because lots of times after the games were over, they would have some sort of cookout and some sort of, family dinner option available. And so it's a great way to really increase your food and beverage at your facilities as well. You mentioned that you had a few people actually come up to you and say that they would like to volunteer. That was actually one of my questions for you is, once you get that many kids, how do you manage your clinics and your games with so many kids? How do you kind of recruit enough volunteers and staff to help on those game days and practices?
I think the practices are a little bit more challenging than the games. The games are so organized that, everybody's out there going in a certain time frame and in a certain direction. section. So maybe you don't need quite as many for the games, although the high school kids or kids that have previously played PGA Junior League, they love to be a part of, to be a coach. I've had them at practices go play with kids. They love that. The younger kids look up to them. Sometimes they'd rather learn something from that person than from me. So high school kids, great resource, works out really well. I will handpick parent helpers. I know you mentioned that in yours, that goes both ways. I just prefer to ask some of the ones I know if they would be interested. And then a lot of our retired golfers at Ironwood are always willing. And in practice, I feel like it's more of a safety thing. I can be in one area with one group, but if I've got two teams coming together and you've got, say, 20 kids, you obviously need help from a safety standpoint. So yeah, the retired golfers are always interested in helping with that, and even the high school kids will do that too. And they can come up with some games and things that the younger kids like that maybe I hadn't thought of. So we use mostly hand-picked parents, some of our retired golfers that have a little bit more time on their hands, and then the kids that have aged out of PGA Junior League as helpers.
That's perfect. You right then, you pretty much hit on really all of the main ideas that I hear from captains on how they're recruiting those extra volunteers, because that seems to be the one thing that is a real concern for professionals as their programs grow is, hey, how am I going to staff for this? And a lot of them do exactly what you're saying. They'll use their senior golfers. They'll go to both their men's and ladies leagues and ask them for help. And they've told me that they've had a ton of just really avid golfers in their league play that are really generally very happy to come out and help and be a part of kind of sharing their love of the game with the youngsters. I do think that the kids, to your point, I think the kids love having high school and college golfers come in and help them. They really find them to be good role models. So I always think that's a great option. And you can always use parents as well. The one thing I want to make sure everybody knows is if you're going to use any of those volunteers, the only thing that you need to do is you need to have them officially register on the PGA Junior League website. And then that way they can go through the background check and they can go through the training that's on the website so that way they are basically certified to be a coach for your team. But as long as they do that, they are good to go. Jan, thanks so much for all the great info. Before we head on to our next guest speaker, do you have any best practices that you do that you'd like to share? Anything that you tried and you were like, wow, that was super successful that you think that others might learn from?
Thank you. And I do think it's important to get your practice and your game schedule out early. And generally, when I send that out, I also make it very clear that, hey, your kids can pick what team they want to be on, so they can be on the team with their friends. And then because of that gets the parents thinking, oh, I should go ask so-and-so and that's how I get a lot of players is, oh, he wanted his friend to play. They brought that person along, and you grow your program. And then the other thing, and I know most of the programs do this, but I will mention it because last year I was kind of amazed. We do an end of the year parent-child scramble and pizza party. And last year, I think we had 42 or 43 kids. Anyway, we had 40 of them show up to play with a parent or a grandparent on our end of the year. So that was, like you said, families are playing more golf together. I mean, that was an eye-opener that it seemed like they were looking forward to that as much as maybe the whole season. So if you don't do an end-of-the-year thing, don't overlook it because it's an awful lot of fun that they remember.
Jan, you brought up something really important right there, and it seems so simple, but the first thing you said was how important it is to go ahead and get your practice and your game schedule done. I will tell you, the number one complaint that we do receive from parents is that they feel like sometimes it takes too long, or they're not communicated to in a timely manner about upcoming practices and games. So you actually hit the nail right on the head there. That is one thing that parents really, really want, is they want that practice and game schedule as soon as possible. And then I also love that you mentioned kind of your end of the year kind of family scramble and how many people played. If you don't already have it on your calendar, I'm going to plug our webinar for next week already, because next week we're talking about PGA Family Cup. And it is an incredible way to include the entire family into what's already happening at your golf course with PGA Junior League. So I highly encourage everybody to attend next week to learn about PGA Family Cup, because similar to what Jan's doing there, I think it's a great way to connect with your families and provide them a wonderful experience on the course with their kids. Jan, one question that popped up in the chat before we let you go is someone asked, Jan, what is a good ratio from your experience for kind of a coach to player ratio during practice sessions?
A little dependent, obviously, on what you're doing, but I generally try not to get over a 6-to-1. So I like a 4-to-1, 5-to-1. And with the PGA Junior League, I kind of like the even numbers because it's a team format, and we'll do a lot of things in the practices where they have a partner so that they can kind of get used to that idea. So, generally it's going to be a 4-to-1 or a 6-to-1. And then certainly if you're asking somebody else to help you, if it's not a professional, I would definitely keep that number in the 4 to 6 range or less.
Perfect, and that's usually I hear 6-to-1 from a lot of captains as well. So that's great. Thank you so much, Jan. I really appreciate that. Before I turn over to Stacy to go in with our next speaker, we did have one more question. It says, when and what time will the webinar be next week? Awesome, somebody's already interested. Jeff, we are doing the webinar the same day, same time next week. So it's going to be next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And Stacy will be sharing out that link throughout the whole section. So you will get that link to join. I'm being very serious. You do not want to miss that webinar. PGA Family Cup is going to be a real game changer, I think, for a lot of facilities and getting their families involved. So thanks for your interest. And I'm going to kick it over to Stacy with our next guest speaker.
Yeah, Jeff, I'll be sending out a reminder again next Tuesday for the webinar, but I'll also send it over to you after the call today to make sure you have the link. It was in the email we sent out in December both times, but I'll send it over to you, make sure you got it. So Jan, thanks again for sharing all of your great ideas and being a part of the call today. We appreciate it. So we're going to switch over. We're going to move over to Jill. Jill, you've enjoyed a successful year with PGA Junior League at Sand Creek Country Club. Can you share with everyone your PGA Junior League story and how did you get started and what does your program look like now?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So I started PGA Junior League in 2014. So 2020 was my 7th year. And I started because I have a passion for junior golf. I was looking for anything new for the kids, but also because my oldest daughter was 9 years old at the time. So I have been a captain and mom ever since my program started on my team. So when we started our team, I was actually at the Brassy Golf Club at that time. I had 4 years there, and I'm into my 4th year now back at Sand Creek. So when we started, like I said, my daughter was 9, and every other kid on that team was 9 or younger. So we were horrible. We were awful, but they had a blast. We didn't win a single match. I think we barely won a flag that first year, but it was fun. And the kids practice was probably more fun than the games. We spent a lot of time just learning how to play a scramble, learning how to chip and putt, really. But within 3 years, those 12 kids that I had on that team were still on that team. So the retention level was great. But then they were undefeated. So within 3 years, they went from not winning at all to being good golfers, and then they were undefeated again the next season. So it was great to have a group of kids that grew together and enjoyed the game of golf. And there's a lot of them are still friends, so that's really great too. I've had the same success since I moved to Sand Creek. When I moved back over to Sand Creek, I went from 1 team to 3 overnight. And as Jan said earlier, that's a lot. I remember that first year I was in a league with 6 teams and I had 3 of them. So I did have, I think, 18 matches in one summer. It was crazy. And we also tried to have 2 practices a week. And able to do that, I had a lot of help. I had a lot of parent help. I had volunteers for members of the club. Some of the older kids that had grown up were still, hanging around on the range, and I would just throw them in and make them help out the younger kids as mentors. So it was great that way too. So, but I think the most important part about the PGA Junior League for me has always been teaching the kids about the game of golf, and that it's not always about the winning and the competitive part, but it can be a lot of fun too, even if they're not the best ones out there.
I agree with you on it. That's why I love PGA Junior League is just everything. It's not all about the winning. It's about growing the kids getting to be friends with everybody, and golf being the tool to do that. So it's one of the reasons I love this program, because any kid that has never touched a club or is a skilled golfer can participate. So with so many players, like you said, you had a wide range of skill level on your team. I know many professionals often set up mentoring opportunities within their program and might ask their more advanced golfers to be leaders and guide other less experienced players in practice games. There's a lot of life lessons being learned through PGA Junior League. What kind of mentoring opportunities do you see in the program, and how do you handle different skill sets within your program on a game day? I know you kind of just touched on this, but anything else you can add to it?
Sure. I used mentoring probably more in practices than I did on game day. Even though it's supposed to be a lot of fun, there still is a competitive edge and the kids want to win. So game day, we would still try to pair them up, best to most inexperienced, I guess. But during practice, I always tried to take the older kids and pair them with a younger kid who hadn't played in PGA Junior League or hadn't even played much golf, only because it gave me another set of eyes to watch that younger kid. But as Jan said earlier too, sometimes those younger kids like to learn things from the older kids. We may be saying the same thing, but hearing it out of my mouth is just like a broken record sometimes. So I use that quite a bit, but not only to help with some of the golf skills, but to teach them how to mark a golf ball, where to stand, where to put their bag. Those are the things that as golfers, as golf professionals are second nature to us. But as beginners, especially, 7 and 8-year-old kids, they're not. So they need to be told, this is where you're going to stand. This is how you're going to put your ball mark down. So I think it sinks in better coming from that child who is 12 or 13 years old as a mentor, because they can speak on their level better than I can at times.
I agree with you. So that's all great to hear. I love hearing those kind of stories. Jill, thanks for sharing your experiences with us. What practice would you share with the group, or what advice would you share with a professional that is considering starting a PGA Junior League team for the first time?
I think the biggest thing is the communication. I have parents who have already reached out wanting to know when we're going to start, which is awesome. And just getting that schedule out, the practice schedule and the game day schedule out right away, and communicating that with the parents. And also encouraging the parents that, hey, this is a popular program. So if you want your kid to play, you have to get on it and get signed up right away, because we're only going to have so many spots, and I can't hold spots. So that's just continuing to communicate that to the parents kind of gives them that little push that they need. But like I said too, I focus a lot on short game, and just having games. When you have 30 kids running around the practice area and trying to corral everybody, the most important thing is safety, and keeping them organized to where they're competing against each other and not just out there practicing on their own is the best way to keep everybody safe. So that's what I try to do every time.
Awesome. Jill, thanks so much. You're doing such a good job there, and I love your story of how you kind of went from worst to first in with your team, and it's also, I think, very rewarding, but also extra challenging to be the coach of your own children. So congratulations on managing that as well.
Thank you.
I've got a son, and he's now in college, but when he was that age, he didn't want to hear anything from me. So
I have two of those, so.
Yeah, it's a navigation right there in itself. But yeah, thank you so much for everything. And one thing I really like that you said, and I've had another pro tell me this too, is when it does come to kind of mentoring, the exact things that you mentioned, like, hey, how to fix a ball mark, how to mark your ball, where to put your bag so that you're walking that way towards the next hole. Just all those things. I have one pro, he will kind of hand pick his more experienced players, and he'll have basically a mentoring class with them. And he'll be like, hey, you know what, today I want you to do this, this, and this with your beginner players. And you're going to teach them, boom, boom, and boom. And he might have, 2 or 3 things that day that are going to be key talking points. But he really, really does a good job of getting them involved in that process. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing. And I really like hearing those stories, because I really think that's where you see growth, not just in the kids that are being mentored, but in those kids that are learning to become mentors. So thanks so much for sharing all that. That's really great. I want to go on to our next speaker, which is going to be Ryan. And Ryan, you had an interesting year because you started at a new facility, the Lynx at Heartland Crossing, and you could have just said, you know what, I'm brand new at this facility. I need to kind of take a year off from PGA Junior League and just kind of, feel my way into this new facility. But you didn't. You said, you know what, I'm going to dive right in. I want to start PGA Junior League here at this facility, and let's see what happens. And it turns out you had a really great turnout, actually much better than you expected. So I'd kind of love to hear just kind of how you came to that decision to start this year and how it turned out for you at your new course.
Yeah, thanks everybody for giving me the opportunity to speak today. To Kim's point, this year we did PGA Junior League at Heartland Crossing for the first time. The decision came as the spring rolled along and more kids' activities were being canceled, baseball, soccer, basketball. So as the spring rolled along, it became pretty apparent that we needed to offer the kids something to do. And in our location, which is Mooresville, Center Grove, Decatur, Plainfield, a lot of those activities were being canceled. When we got the word that PGA Junior League was still a go and we were going to do it, that was when I made the push to really start trying to get some kids to participate and give kids something to do during the summer months. Now, I will say it did take us a while to get going. I think around Memorial Day, I maybe had 2 kids signed up, and I was beginning to question kind of what was going on, if this was the right idea. Was anybody going to let their kids, were parents going to let their kids participate in anything? And then as we rolled into June, all of a sudden sign-ups started coming in. And I think within 3 weeks, we filled the team. And the funny part about that is, we had our first practice towards the end of June. That was when we kind of felt we were free and clear of everything and we could do it. We had one practice. I think I had 10 kids show up. I took a bunch of social pictures for social media, Facebook, and posted them. And ironically enough, I filled a second team in 3 days. So it was absolutely crazy and amazing to see all in the same breath. But it was something I felt like we had to do for the kids in our community. We had to give them an outlet, and being outside on the range on the golf course was just kind of a no-brainer scenario. Plus, there was a need in our area. Nobody really around me was offering PGA Junior League. There was a couple places a little farther north and a little farther to our east, but where I'm located, there really wasn't any other options for PGA Junior League that anybody had access to. So despite being pretty new and trying to get a facility up and running, PGA Junior League is just a no-brainer for anybody that's looking to enhance your junior program.
Ryan, it's funny that you say that because I remember you reaching out to me and you're like, Kim, you're like, I only have 2 kids. Should I even do it? Should I just cancel? And then like literally a couple weeks later, you're like, Kim, I have so many kids. I need 2 teams. It kind of really blew up very, very quickly.
About 2 weeks, if I remember correctly. It was about 2 to 3 weeks. It was looking dire, and all of a sudden, boom, it exploded. So it was a great problem to have in a quick amount of time.
Exactly. And you touched on something that you said, hey, these kids really needed something to do. And, I want to share a quick story, but in the Michigan section this year, there was a captain that I work with, and during the regular season, he had 3 teams. And as the fall started to approach, he started to get more and more people come in and saying, hey, we had so much fun during the regular season. We really don't want it to end. And, would you consider doing a completely separate fall season? And so during the regular season, he had been with a travel league. And so he had 3 teams and with 3 other teams in the area. During the fall, those other teams did not want to do a fall season. So he said, you know what, I'm just going to do it on my own. And I'm just going to do this, fall in-house league program. So he did a fall program in basically September and October. And he ended up, during the regular season, he had 36 kids. During the fall season, he ended up with 84 kids in his fall program. So I think, to your point, once you get it started, there's just a huge interest right now. and capitalizing on that and getting people on the golf course, it's such an opportunity right now to get them out there. And then once you get them there, then you can work on retaining them and keeping them. But, there's definitely that interest right now for anybody that's looking to start a program, now's the best time, the absolute best time to do it. And Ryan, I've worked with you for several years at other facilities where you did PGA Junior League. And I know it's already been mentioned a couple times on the call with both Jan and Jill that communication is so important. And you are a very good communicator with your parents and with the other captains in your league. Can you maybe just share with us some of your communication strategies? How do you connect with those other captains in your league? And then how do you really connect with your families so that they feel like they're well informed?
Yeah, so I try to use as many avenues as we can, whether it's, posting on social media and tagging people to over communicating via email or text messages. But I think the key is for everybody is you have to convey that you're passionate and you're excited for the program. And I think that goes a long way. I do send out after a match, I'll send out, I'll email all the parents a match summary, but I try to make it kind of entertaining and informative and give the kids, something like, oh, hey, let's see what Jimmy did this week. And then, along the way, as I'm out watching the kids, if you see a kid hit a great shot, there's nothing better than like recognizing him in the summary. So any way you can recognize a kid for a great performance. The parents love it. The kid gets a little notoriety. He gets a little bragging rights amongst his buddies, especially if he played well. And we all know how far that goes. But I over communicate. I don't think you can communicate enough in today's world. A great example is I had a family from Plainfield with 2 boys in the program. And I was talking to the mom one day, and she's like, "Oh, we go from basketball to here to soccer, and we might get home by 8 o'clock." So even though there was still not much going on, but we're still fighting to hit the daily chatter of these parents. So the more we can over communicate, make it important, and make it passionate, that's what'll draw them in. If you just send out a blanket email, I think it's going to go like every other blanket email. It's just going to get lost in the shuffle, and the parents aren't going to pay attention, and you're going to lose their attention span. So those are kind of the main points I could talk about as far as communicating with parents that makes it valuable. Plus, if I'm passionate about it, they know that they've signed their kids up for a good program.
Ryan, those seem like such simple suggestions, but they make a huge difference in the success of not only your teams, but the success for the entire league. You're one of the best communicators, and you always make sure your families know every detail of the program and what to expect at practices and games. The consistency of your messaging and importance of sharing your expectations for the player and the spectator conduct can set a positive tone for game days. Often the difference between a smooth, well-executed game day and a chaotic game day is simply the communication shared out prior to the game day. So agree with everything that you just stated. And Kim and I both have seen over the years that definitely the leagues that have the most success are the ones that communicate with their players and their parents. Can you also share how you organize your practices and game days for an optimal experience for your players? How do you keep your players engaged during the practices, and what are some of the important things to do on game days to ensure success? And do you do anything special to help with pace of play, and how important is course setup on game day?
Yeah, so these are all pretty key points. Practice day. We do actually practice. At a previous facility, when I showed up, they said, well, we don't practice. We just go play golf for 2 hours. And I'm like, well, that's not practice. So we do, much like Jill said, she focuses on short game, chipping, pitching, putting, because we've all got those kids in the group that can just absolutely hit the ball. And it's envious to even us adults as to how well some of these kids can actually hit their driver or their 7-iron. But you give them an 8-footer or need them to get up and down on a hole, and all bets are off. I see Jill shaking her head like, yep, I've been there, done that. But the thing that we did this year that was totally different was we started mixing in a bunch of games and contests. And if you want kids to have fun we've all been there where when we were learning in junior golf, you got stuck on the range with a pile of balls and coach said, just go hit for an hour or two. Well, that's no fun. These kids want something engaging and interactive. And I will tell everybody in the group, if your golf shop is not carrying the matte-colored, brightly colored golf balls, you need to, because those get these kids so fired up. If you tell them, hey, we're playing for, a golf ball, they're like, oh, cool. Do I get to pick which color? And they love them. They can see them. They're great. But we mixed in some of I mixed in some of the drills and stuff that's used on PGA Coach, with trying to get kids to run, to throw, to do other movements. We just tried to make practice just about as fun as we could. Contest out every 10 seconds. There's a contest, who can hit it into the hula hoop, who can chip it into the hula hoop, who can pitch it, who can hit. We've got giant wooden, Jan's been to my facility. We've got giant cutout 8-foot Sasquatches on the range. Who can get it closest to the red one, or who can hit it? When it comes to putting, oh my gosh, we did like 3-hole putting contest. And every week it came down to 2 or 3 kids who were battling for the win and bragging rights for the next week. And to see the kids get into it, it made the practice fun. Like, I had a couple kids every week. They were like, hey, let's, I'm going to win this week. Oh, I didn't win this week. Okay, I'm going to win next week. So it got their competitive juices flowing and got them into the competition mindset. So anything we can do to make it fun and get it a little competitive help. As far as game day goes, we set up carts to the side at the facility so the parents knew where to go. It kept it organized. And then as far as course setup goes, somebody told me in the very beginning when I started in 2016, make the golf course setup for your mid-level player to your beginner player. Don't worry about the good kids. Let them drive the greens. Let them hit irons from whatever distance. But make it fun for the beginners and the mid-range kids. Those are the ones that you want to keep coming back. You're a good kid. He's going to play. He's going to go play U.S. Kids. He's going to play Bridgestone. He's going to play in section events when he gets older. He's fine. Let him fine tune that short game. Let him dump it up by the green and have to chip and putt. So at Heartland, we set up what was called the family tee. My longest hole is about 250 yards, and it's the par 5s. And that's where we make the kids play from. Most of the holes are 200 yards or less. The par 3s are all around 100 yards. So, but to see the little guys get out there and be able to have an opportunity to hit a good drive and possibly hit a good second shot and get on the green is so valuable to their enjoyment. So set your golf courses up for the average kid and the beginner kid. Don't worry about the good kids. The good kids are going to be good. They're not going to magically get worse because you made them play a shorter golf course. If anything, it's going to go back to making them work on that short game that we all try to practice so much. So game day, it goes back to just the thing, be super organized, keep everything quarantined, over communicate with the parents even in person when you give your announcements. And then just set it up for fun. It's all about fun. I mean, I've been in Jill's shoes where my first year we were 0-6. I think we had to play Jan's 2 or 3 teams, and Jan's teams are usually pretty good. I think there was a couple kids on there that really did us over. And then I taken 4th in the section championship a couple years ago. So I've seen the highs and the lows, but in the end, it's all about the fun and the kids' enjoyment of the game of golf.
Those are all great ideas. Thanks for sharing, Ryan. I love when you're talking about the course setup and everything. It's definitely one of the things I always try to promote with all of our captains and everything is, I mean, the overall goal of PGA Junior League is to make it fun for the kids. And also like that you touched on PGA.coach and bringing that into your program. For anybody who wants to learn more about PGA.coach and everything, we are going to have a webinar on the 20th at 10 o'clock. So we'll have more info come into that with the link being sent out for that one too. So mark your calendars. If you haven't done PGA.coach, highly recommend. There's so many great tools and resources available through that program. So obviously there's monetary benefits from the registration fees as well, F&B, spectator carts, and other incremental revenue. But what are some of the intangible benefits that you see from your PGA Junior League program? And did you see an increase in play or engagement from those families at your facility?
Yes, we definitely saw more families, more kids coming out. I would say I had 21 kids. I probably had 17 total families. And I would say about 10 of those before the fall and school got back in, we saw them out pretty regularly. I had one dad, I think he had broken his ankle or ankle surgery and couldn't play, but his little boy was just so in love and enamored with golf. They were coming out twice a week. And then there was a couple others that lived in the neighborhood close to the golf course. We started seeing them on a regular basis. So it definitely made an impact as far as, the families participating at our facility. And that's what you want. I mean, if you can draw the parents in, whether they're beginners or advanced, those are new golfers. That's what that's the great question every winter. How do we get new golfers? How do we engage the non-traditional golfers? And if PGA Junior League and PGA Family Cup are a way to do that, then everybody should be trying to do it in some form, maybe not exactly to the T, but find a way to make it work at your facility, because there's definitely a need. And now as much as ever, where we're seeing families are, so to speak, cutting the cords at home, give them a reason to come to the club or come to the facility. Again, it doesn't have to follow the letter of the law. You can make it up as you go. There's nothing wrong with that, but just capitalize on it. There's so many people now, they're not just sitting around the house watching TV. They want to get their kids out, and they want to be out too, and they want a reason to participate.
Ryan, that's awesome. Thank you so much. To your point and kind of what you were just saying right there is I often hear from pros that are doing PGA Junior League that they will tell me, hey, before I started doing PGA Junior League, I think that my customers looked at us just as a place to go play golf. But now that we're doing PGA Junior League, I feel like my customers are now looking at us more as a golf community, somewhere where they can go to connect with others, to kind of bond with their teammates, a place where they feel welcomed and that they can have that social interaction together. And so they've told me that they feel like they now are viewed more as a golf community, and that they feel like they're creating more loyal customers through PGA Junior League and really creating more kind of lifelong golfers through the program. And it sounds like that's exactly the what you're experiencing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what we saw, I don't know if anybody else can attest to this, but what I saw being in the public sector was you've got parents that haven't played golf in 20 years that are coming back to the game. And I saw that quite a bit this year. I gave lessons to people that hadn't played golf since the late 90s, early 2000s, just because of work and family and other commitments, but they're now coming back to the game. Or there was even parents who are like, I dabbled, I play in a scramble once a year. But to the other point of the golf community, we're talking about the need. I know Jan works with US Kids, and we did an event in the summer that saw 60 kids, and then we did an event in the fall that saw 90 kids show up. So to see the increase across the board is just fantastic. And I think as a facility, to your point, Kim, the more we do kid and family oriented, yes, we become we're not just a golf course. We're now a golf community. And that's what people want to be attracted to. Anybody can go find a golf course and go play golf. But I think there's a real sense of wanting to belong to community right now. And golf can definitely provide that.
I completely agree. Ryan, thank you so much for all of your insights. You are obviously very passionate about the program, and I really appreciate all three of you, Jan, Jill, and Ryan, sharing all of your success stories. All three of you have done a lot with PGA Junior League in the last few years, and we appreciate all that you do, and we know your families do as well. So we really are thankful that you were able to spend some time with us today. I would like to kind of open this up. If there's anybody on the call that would like to ask any of our three guest speakers any questions at all, feel free to either throw it in the chat channel or to just unmute yourself and ask any question of Ryan, Jill, or Jan now. And if not, then I'm going to give you just a minute. Feel free to chime in, and if there's not any questions, I am going to share with you all of the 2021 changes for PGA Junior League this year, and that way you can feel kind of up to date on everything that you need to know for this season. I am looking, and I don't see anything in the chat, and I don't see anybody unmuting, so I'm going to assume that Ryan, Jan, and Jill answered all of your questions. And please know that those three, they would help you any day of the week. So feel free to reach out to any one of those three, and I know that they would like to further that discussion if you'd like to do that. I am going to take a minute here, and I'm going to share with you all the changes for the 2021 season. So some people always ask me, hey, why is the program kind of always evolving? Why are there changes that are coming along? And a big part of that is we really try to pride ourselves on listening and learning from your feedback. So a lot of the changes that happen in PGA Junior League are a direct result of the feedback that Stacy and I hear from pros, that the pros put into their end of the year surveys, that the parents put into their end of the year surveys. We really try to listen and learn and then adapt to make it as good as it can possibly be. So when we looked towards 2021, we actually really learned a lot in 2020. And one of the things that we learned was that our pros last year were really, really good at adapting. And life hit them with some pretty serious struggles through a pandemic. And they figured out how to adapt and how to create a program at their facilities that really worked well for their families. And so that didn't necessarily look exactly like what PGA Junior League normally looks like. And so as we looked at some of the success stories from 2020, we decided that there needed to be more flexibility and more adaptability within the local league level for PGA Junior League. So when you look at some of these changes, that's what you're going to find is there's a flexibility there for you at your facility to create a program that's going to work best for you. So the first change I actually mentioned earlier is that the in-house and regular travel leagues, normally in order to be eligible for the postseason, whether you're an in-house or a travel league, you would normally need to have 32 players. And we've lowered that this year to 24. One of the reasons for that is we had a lot of facilities this last year that had like 20 to 28 players, and they did their own in-house leagues with smaller teams. And we think that's going to be something that's going to happen in 2021 as well. And we don't want to hold those facilities back that are doing those smaller in-house leagues from being able to participate in the postseason. We want to reward them for their efforts and let them participate in the postseason. So this year, the minimum number of players for a 13U division to participate in the postseason is 24 players. And the matches per game can be adjusted up or down depending on the number of players from each team. So let's say that you are in a travel league and your team shows up and you have 15 players on your team that show up that day. And the other team has 16 players that show up that day. Well, you all could decide to play 7 matches that day instead of 4 matches if you would like to. And that way the players can play all 9 holes with just a couple subs in and out, rather than playing 4 matches where a lot of the players only get to play, 6 holes or whatever. If that works best for you, that's great. If you show up with 6 kids and the other team shows up with 7, you all can just play 3 matches that day. There's a lot of flexibility there so that you can create something that works best for you and your families. You can also use shorter flags. So for example, this year I had a captain that was doing an in-house league. They had a lot of really young kids, like ages 4 to 9 years old. And they decided that for those really young kids, they were going to create their own league, and they were just going to play 6 holes. So instead of playing 9-hole matches, they just played 6-hole matches, and they made each flag a 2-hole flag versus a 3-hole flag. So, whatever your situation looks like, you have the flexibility. If you're an in-house league, you can make all those decisions on your own. If you're in a travel league, we'll work through that in our captain's meeting to figure out how we want to do that. But there's a lot of flexibility within your local leagues to create an experience that you think will be best for your players. The other new things for this year is when it comes to the 17U program this year. For the first time ever, the 17U program is going to have both section and regional championships. So Stacy will be hosting the section championship, and then the winner of that section championship will go on to the regional championship. There is not going to be a national championship for 17U this year, but they're going to kind of look at this new section and regional championship format, see how many people are involved, see if it's a positive thing, kind of get the feedback from families. And if it's something that's good, I think that you could very easily see down the road in the future a potential 17U national championship. So you will be seeing 17U regional and section championships this year. The other differences for the postseason this year, for the 13U division, all-star players can be no younger than 10 years old and no older than 13 years old as of July 31st to be on an all-star team. So that is different. In the past, you could be 8 or 9 years old and be on an all-star team. Now you must be 10. Why is that change in effect? It is directly correlated to that American Development Model, which you can learn about on the PGA.coach website, where through lots and lots of research with pediatricians and child psychologists and sports trainers, they've discovered that it is really not healthy for kids to travel extensively until they're the age of 10 for any sort of sports. So we've aligned with that model. You will see that for 17U, players must be no younger than 14 years and no older than 17 years of age as of July 31st to participate in the section and regional championships for 17U. The team sizes for the all-star teams. For 13U, they have lowered the team size. It was 10 all-star players previously. They've lowered that to 8 all-star players per all-star team. The reason for that is twofold. One is we always had a lot of teams that really, really struggled to actually get 10 players. And so they were always having a difficult time fielding a full team. And then the other is we've also had a lot of feedback, especially from the families, saying that they didn't necessarily like to travel a long distance and then only play 6 holes if their child was a substitute. So by going to 8 all-star players, then you kind of eliminate the substitutes and every player gets more playing time at that all-star level. So those are a couple of the key changes that you will see during that time. And then the final changes in the postseason is in the fee structure. This year for regional, there will be no fees for section championships, but for regional championships, there will be a $200 per player fee that is going to be introduced for this season. And then for the national championship, there will be a $500 per player fee for those that go to the national championship. And the biggest reason for that is, quite frankly, is budgetary constraints. And we did a lot of research looking at all of the other different sports that are out there, from Little League to hockey to whatever it might be. And those fees are actually still lower than a lot of the other sports fees for their travel competitions. And it will provide us with the ability to continue to really give a very incredible championship experience for the players that are going. So those are the key changes for the 2021 season. Any questions from anybody on those new modifications for this year? And please know Stacy and I are always available. So if you're not comfortable asking a question here, you can always reach out to us individually, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have as well. I think that we have covered a lot today. So Stacy, I'll kind of let you maybe close us out, and we'll go from there.
All right, yeah, so thank you everybody for taking the time today to join us on the call. Like Kim said, we discussed a lot of information, but there's still a lot more information we did not discuss. For example, we didn't take a deep dive into 17U division, the opportunity, or the fall league opportunity. Both of these options are growing rapidly as we are seeing more and more kids ages 14 to 17 who want to play PGA Junior League, and we are seeing a lot of players that want to continue playing Junior League into the fall season. If you have any interest in running a 17U division or participating in the fall program this year, please contact us directly, and we're happy to go over any information and questions that you may have. So again, a huge thank you to our 3 guest speakers, Jan, Jill, and Ryan. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today, and for thank everybody for joining the call. We hope you will join us again next week on January 13th at 10 a.m. for our next webinar, which will be the PGA Family Cup. And like I said, I'll be sending out a reminder again on Tuesday before with the link and everything. But if anybody wants that info, I'll send it to them prior to the call also. But thank you guys all again, and we're hoping everybody has another successful 2021 season and a healthy year and everything. So thank you all again for joining us today.
Yes, thank you guys. We appreciate you taking the time, and we hope to see you next week to discuss PGA Family Cup. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So have a great rest of your week, great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Stacy.